There is something deep inside each of us that longs for meaning. Not just success or comfort or even happiness, but something more, something that gives life depth. This is what I call the sense of sacredness. It is not a thing we can hold. It is not a belief we must follow. It is a way of seeing the world. And many of us have lost this way of seeing. In modern life, we move quickly. We check our phones. We rush through meals. We multitask. Everything is measured, compared, and judged. But when we live like this, we begin to forget that life itself is sacred. That each breath, each step, and each quiet moment holds a mystery. We become so used to looking for results that we forget to feel wonder. To rediscover the sacred does not mean we must travel to a temple or study ancient texts. It starts with how we look at this moment, right now. Can you feel the air around you? Can you hear a small sound in the distance? Can you notice the way light falls on a wall? These simple things are not small. They are doorways. They invite us back into a deeper way of living. Many people think that the sacred must be connected to religion. But I believe sacredness is older than religion. It is something human, something we are born with. A child who watches a bird or listens to the wind already knows it. They do not need words. They only need to be open. As we grow older, we may forget. But we can remember. We can begin again. We can stop for a moment. And instead of asking, "What's next?" we can ask, "What is here?" In that simple question, we start to return. The sacred is not far away. It is here. In the sound of rain, in the smell of tea, in the quiet of your room when you wake up early. We do not need to do anything special. We only need to pay attention, not with our minds, but with our hearts. When we do this, life begins to change, not suddenly, but gently. We start to feel more alive. We start to feel less alone. And we begin to see that the sacred has been waiting for us all along. Many people today feel something is missing in their lives. They may have good jobs, loving families, and full calendars. Yet still, they feel empty. Not in a dramatic or painful way, more like a quiet sense that something important has been lost. This feeling is often the result of forgetting the sacred. But why did we forget? It did not happen all at once. It happened slowly, over time. In the past, people lived closer to the earth. They watched the seasons change. They listened to the sky and the rivers. Life moved at the pace of nature. There was a natural rhythm that helped people feel connected to something greater than themselves. Today, that rhythm is harder to hear. We live in cities full of noise and bright lights. We are surrounded by machines and screens. We spend hours looking at things that do not look back at us. In this kind of world, it is easy to lose touch with the quiet truth inside us. Also, our culture often tells us what matters is what we can buy, what we can prove, or what we can show. But the sacred cannot be bought. It cannot be proven. And it does not need to be shown. It only needs to be felt. When we measure everything by its use or its price, we begin to forget that some things are valuable, simply because they exist. Another reason we forget the sacred is because we are afraid. The sacred feels deep. It feels quiet. It asks us to slow down. And when we slow down, we begin to feel not just beauty, but also sadness, regret, and longing. Many of us do not want to face those feelings, so we stay busy, we keep moving. But in doing so, we move further away from the sacred part of ourselves. This forgetting is not anyone's fault. It is part of the modern world. But once we see it, we can begin to change. We can choose a different path, a slower, softer, more honest path. And in choosing that path, we begin to remember. We remember that life is not just about doing, but also about being. Not just about thinking, but also about seeing, feeling, and simply being present. In that remembering, we find our way back to what is sacred. In today's world, silence is rare. We wake up to alarms. We hear traffic, music, talking, notifications. Even when we are alone, our minds are filled with noise, thoughts, memories, plans, worries. We are not used to silence. Some people even fear it. But silence is not empty. It is full. It is alive. And it is one of the most powerful gateways to the sacred. When we enter silence, we leave behind the world of doing. We stop chasing. We stop explaining. We stop trying to be something. In silence, we simply are. We begin to notice things we had forgotten. The sound of our own breath, the beating of our heart, the soft hum of life all around us. These are not just physical sounds. They are reminders that we are part of something deeper. Silence does not mean the absence of sound. It means the presence of stillness. You can find silence even when the world is noisy. You can be silent while sitting on a train, walking through a park, or even washing dishes. It is not about escaping life. It is about entering it more fully, with open attention. Many sacred moments begin in silence. Think of a person standing alone in nature, eyes closed, listening to the wind. Or someone sitting quietly before a candle, watching the flame. Or just sitting at the edge of a busy day, with eyes resting on nothing, and heart open to everything. These simple moments are sacred, not because of what we do, but because of how we are in them. Silence also teaches us something important. It shows us that we don't need to always have answers. We don't need to speak or act to be valuable. In silence, we find that just being is enough. We meet ourselves honestly, and we meet something larger than ourselves, something timeless, quiet, and deeply peaceful. The sacred often speaks in whispers. It does not shout. It waits patiently, beneath all the noise. And when we enter silence, even just for a few moments, we begin to hear it again. So take a moment, even now. Breathe, listen, feel the silence behind all things. It is not empty. It is sacred. Nature has a quiet power. It doesn't try to teach us, but we learn from it. It doesn't speak in words, but we feel its message. For thousands of years, people have gone to forests, mountains, rivers, and oceans to feel closer to something greater than themselves. This is not just tradition, it is human instinct. Nature awakens something inside us. It reminds us of the sacred. When we walk through a forest or sit by the sea, something begins to change. Our minds slow down. Our breath becomes softer. The world around us feels more real, more honest. A tree does not rush. A river does not force. The sky does not ask for attention, but it holds us. In these simple experiences, we remember that life is not something we must control. It is something we can meet, just as it is. Nature has no opinions. It does not judge us. It accepts everything. Life and death, growth and decay, sunlight and shadow. It welcomes all things. And when we spend time in nature, we begin to feel accepted too. We begin to understand that we are not separate from this world. We are part of it. Many people think they must go far away to find nature. But sacred nature is not only in deep forests or high mountains. It can be found in the wind, moving through the leaves of a small tree, in the soft sound of rain, or in the way the clouds slowly change shape. Even a single flower, growing through a crack in the sidewalk, can open our hearts. To awaken sacred awareness through nature, we do not need to study it. We only need to notice it, to stop for a moment, breathe, and feel the life around us. When we do, we often feel a gentle peace, a sense that everything belongs, including us. Nature doesn't ask us to believe anything. It only asks us to be present. And in that presence, something sacred returns to us. Not because nature gives it, but because nature helps us remember what was already within. So when life feels heavy or noisy, step outside. Look at the sky. Feel the ground under your feet. Let the natural world bring you back to what is real. Let it guide you home to the sacred. Many people believe that sacredness belongs only to religion. They think it is something you find in temples, churches, or holy books. But the sacred is not limited by religion. It is deeper, older, and more personal. Religion can point to the sacred, but the sacred itself is not owned by any belief. It lives in the heart. It lives in the way we experience life. There are people who follow no religion, yet feel a deep connection to something greater than themselves. They may not use words like God or Spirit, but they feel moved by beauty, touched by silence, and inspired by kindness. This too is sacred. It does not need a name. It only needs to be felt. Religion can be a beautiful path. It offers structure, tradition, and community. But if we believe the sacred only exists inside certain walls or under certain rules, we begin to close our eyes to the wider truth. The sacred is not limited by culture, language, or history. It is found wherever there is truth, honesty, and deep feeling. When you hold the hand of someone you love, that can be sacred. When you stand in awe before the stars, that can be sacred. When you sit quietly, feeling the simple gift of being alive, that can be sacred. These moments do not belong to any one religion. They belong to all of us. In fact, sometimes religion can become too busy with form, what to wear, what to say, what to believe. And in the middle of all that, the quiet voice of the sacred is lost. That voice is not loud. It does not demand anything. It only waits. It waits for us to return to ourselves and to the stillness where it lives. Sacredness beyond religion means seeing life itself as holy. It means treating the world with care, treating others with respect, and treating our own lives with gentleness. It means not rushing past the small things, noticing, listening, opening. We do not need a special title or a special role to do this. We only need to be human, fully human, honest, soft, real. The sacred is not far away. It is not hidden. It is waiting in the quiet places, both around us and within us. In many traditions, the body is often seen as something separate from the spirit. Some even see it as a problem, something to rise above or control. But in truth, the body is not the enemy of the sacred. The body is one of its most beautiful expressions. It is not just a container. It is a vessel, living, breathing, feeling, and it holds the sacred within it. Your body is not a mistake. It is not too old, too weak, too heavy, too thin. It is exactly what it needs to be for your life, your journey. Every scar, every wrinkle, every movement tells a story. The sacred is not found only in perfect shapes. It is found in the real, the honest, the human. Think of how your body carries you through each day. How it holds your heart, your breath, your memories. How your hands reach out to others. How your eyes hold tears. How your chest rises and falls as you sleep. These are not just physical actions. They are quiet miracles. We often overlook them because they happen so often, but they are full of wonder. When we treat our bodies with kindness, we begin to see them differently. Not as tools, not as things to fix, but as sacred spaces. A soft touch, a deep breath, a moment of rest. These are ways of honoring the body. We don't need to wait for sickness or pain to start caring for it. The body deserves care simply because it is alive. The body also teaches us about limits. It gets tired. It feels pain. It changes with time. But these limits are not signs of weakness. They are reminders that we are part of nature. Everything that lives must change. Everything that lives must rest. When we accept this, we stop fighting ourselves. We begin to live with more peace. To see the body as sacred is not about pride. It is about respect. Quiet respect for the life that flows through us, for the way we feel the world, not just with thoughts, but through touch, sound, movement, and breath. You do not need to go anywhere special to meet the sacred. Just sit still. Feel your own heartbeat. Feel the ground under your feet. This is your temple. This is your sacred home. In our daily lives, we are often somewhere else. Our bodies may be in one place, but our thoughts are far away. We think about the past, worry about the future, plan the next thing. But the sacred does not live in the past or future. It lives in the present. And the way we enter the present is through attention. Attention is not just about looking. It is about seeing with care, listening with care, being fully here, even in small moments. When we give something our full attention, we say, "This matters." That simple act brings sacredness into the moment. Think of how it feels when someone really listens to you, not just with their ears, but with their whole presence. You feel seen, you feel valued. That is the power of attention. And we can offer the same gift to the world around us. Even something as simple as drinking a cup of tea can become sacred. Not because the tea is special, but because of how we meet it. We feel the warmth, notice the scent, taste each sip slowly. When we give it our full presence, the moment deepens. It becomes more than just tea. It becomes life, lived with care. Many people believe they must do something big to feel close to the sacred. But the truth is, sacredness often enters quietly. It comes when we pay attention, when we stop rushing, when we give the world and ourselves a moment of gentle focus. This kind of presence is not always easy. Our minds are busy, our habits are strong. But with practice, we can return again and again, not to control the moment, but to simply be in it, fully, honestly, with open eyes and an open heart. The sacred is not hiding, it is waiting. It waits in the sound of a child's laugh, in the way sunlight touches a table, in the face of a stranger passing by. All it asks is that we notice. When we live with presence, even ordinary things become full of life. The world becomes less flat, less cold. It begins to shine with quiet meaning. And we begin to see that every moment is a chance to touch the sacred. We often think of the sacred as something we find alone, in silence, in nature, or in stillness. And this is true. But there is another place where the sacred lives, in our relationships with others. Human connection, when met with care and honesty, can become a doorway to the sacred. When we truly meet another person, not just talk, but really meet them with our heart, something deep happens. It is not about agreeing or sharing the same beliefs. It is about presence, about seeing and being seen without masks. In that moment, we touch something greater than both of us. Often, we rush through conversations. We speak to be heard, but not always to understand. We listen with half of our attention, thinking about what we will say next. But when we slow down and give someone our full presence, something changes. The space between us becomes alive. It becomes sacred. Even the small acts, offering a kind word, sharing a meal, holding someone's hand in silence, can carry great meaning. These are not just polite actions. They are ways of saying, "I see you, you matter, you are not alone. And in that moment, we both feel the presence of something deeper. True connection does not require perfection. We do not need to always say the right thing or be strong. In fact, it is often in our honesty, our softness, and even our pain that we find the deepest connections. When we allow others to see our true selves, and when we gently welcome their truth as well, we create sacred space. This kind of relationship is not limited to family or close friends. It can happen with a stranger, a neighbor, or someone we may never meet again. The sacred is not about time or titles. It is about the quality of the moment shared. To bring sacredness into our relationships, we do not need special words. We only need to be present, to listen with our hearts, and to speak with kindness. We do not need to fix each other. We only need to be there, fully, gently. In the quiet connection between two people, there is often more truth than in 1,000 words. And when that truth is met with love, the sacred appears, not as an idea, but as a living presence between us. Everything in life changes. The seasons shift, the body ages, people come and go, and even our thoughts and feelings rise and fall like waves. At first, this can feel sad. We want to hold on to what we love. We want to keep what brings us comfort. But impermanence is not just something to accept. It is something to appreciate. It is where much of life's beauty lives. Imagine a flower. Part of what makes it beautiful is that it does not last forever. It blooms, it fades, and it returns to the earth. If it stayed the same forever, we might stop noticing it. Its short life invites us to truly see it now, while it's here. That is the gift of impermanence. It makes the present moment more precious. We often fear change because it feels like loss. And yes, change can bring pain, but it can also bring growth, healing, and understanding. The truth is, without change, we could not become who we are meant to be. Without endings, there would be no space for new beginnings. Impermanence also teaches us compassion. When we remember that everyone and everything is passing through time, just like we are, we become softer. We judge less. We hold our relationships more gently, knowing that nothing is guaranteed. This helps us love more deeply and live more fully. Some people think that impermanence means nothing matters. But I believe the opposite. Because things don't last, they matter even more. A single day with someone you love, a kind word, a sunset, these are not small. They are miracles that happen once, then disappear. And that is what gives them their power. When we open our hearts to impermanence, we begin to live with more presence and more gratitude. We stop waiting for the perfect moment and start appreciating the moment we have. We let go a little more easily. We love with fewer conditions. And we begin to see that even in loss, there is beauty. Nothing stays the same. And that's okay. In fact, it's sacred. Impermanence is not the end of meaning. It is the beginning of deeper understanding. The more we embrace this truth, the more fully we can live. Modern life is full of complexity. We are surrounded by choices, by noise, by messages telling us to do more, buy more, become more. But in trying to have everything, we often lose sight of what truly matters. In all the busy layers, the sacred becomes hidden. That is why simplicity is such a powerful path. It helps us return to what is real, clear, and meaningful. Simplicity is not about giving up everything. It's not about having less just for the sake of it. It's about letting go of what distracts us from the truth. It's about choosing what brings us closer to life, to others, and to ourselves. When we simplify, we create space. And in that space, the sacred can enter. Think of a quiet room with only a few things inside, a soft chair, a window, a single plant. There is a kind of peace in that space. It doesn't demand your attention. It allows you to breathe. Your thoughts become clearer. Your heart becomes softer. That is the power of simplicity. When we remove some of the noise from our homes, our schedules, even our conversations, we begin to notice the gentle beauty around us, a bird's song, the warmth of sunlight on the skin, the smile of someone passing by. These simple things, once buried under busyness, start to shine again. Simplicity also invites us to live more honestly. When we are not always chasing the next thing, we can ask deeper questions. What do I truly need? What brings peace to my life? What can I let go of? These are sacred questions. And the answers are often much smaller and quieter than we expect. In simple living, we may own fewer things, but we often feel more full. We may speak fewer words, but those words carry more weight. We may do fewer tasks, but those tasks feel more meaningful. This is not poverty. This is richness of the soul. The sacred does not ask for decoration. It asks for presence, and presence is easier to find when we are not surrounded by too much. Simplicity helps us see clearly. It clears the fog. It opens the door to a deeper kind of life. When we live simply, we live close to the heart of things, and in that closeness, the sacred becomes visible once again. Suffering is part of life. No one escapes it. We all experience loss, fear, loneliness, and pain. When suffering comes, it can feel heavy and endless. It can make us question everything, even the meaning of life itself. In those dark moments, the sacred may feel far away. But the truth is, it is still there, quiet, gentle, and waiting. Even in suffering, we can find the sacred. We are often taught to avoid pain, to fix it quickly, or to hide it. But pain is not something to be ashamed of. It is a natural part of being human. When we allow ourselves to feel it fully, without pushing it away, and without being swallowed by it, we open a door to something deeper. The sacred does not promise a life without suffering. It promises that we are not alone in it. There is a kind of beauty that only shows itself in times of difficulty. Not a joyful beauty, but a deep, quiet strength. A kind of light that glows softly in the darkest rooms. We may not see it right away, but it is there. When we face suffering with honesty, we also begin to understand others more deeply. We see that everyone carries something. Everyone is walking a difficult path in their own way. This understanding creates gentleness in us. And in that gentleness, the sacred rises. We do not need to pretend to be strong. It is okay to cry. It is okay to fall. What matters is that we stay open, even when it hurts. That we continue to feel, to care, to reach out. The sacred is not found by escaping pain. It is often found by walking through it, with courage, with softness, and with truth. Sometimes in the middle of pain, there are moments of stillness. A soft breeze through a window, a kind word from someone, a moment of silence where time seems to stop. These small things carry great meaning. They remind us that even now, even here, life is holding us. Suffering changes us, but it does not have to harden us. It can open us. And in that opening, the sacred returns, not as an answer, but as a presence. A presence that says, "You are not alone." This too is part of the path. We are often taught to look for meaning in big things, important events, great achievements, or powerful experiences. But the sacred is not only found in grand moments. In fact, it is most often found in the small, quiet details of daily life. The ordinary is not separate from the sacred. It is where the sacred lives. Think of the first light of morning through your window. the way steam rises from a warm bowl of soup, the sound of a familiar voice saying your name. These moments are not dramatic, but they carry a deep kind of peace. They remind us that we are alive, that we are part of something gentle and true. We often rush through daily routines without thinking, washing the dishes, folding clothes, walking to the store. But if we bring our full attention to these actions, something shifts. The simple becomes meaningful. The act becomes more than a task. It becomes a moment of connection with life, with time, with ourselves. Children understand this easily. They can spend long minutes looking at a bug, or playing with a stone, or listening to the rain. They don't ask if something is important. They simply meet the moment as it is. This is a kind of wisdom we often lose as we grow older, but we can return to it. To see the sacred in the ordinary does not require special training. It requires slowing down. It requires noticing. When we stop looking for something more, we begin to see what is already here. The smell of bread baking, the feeling of warm water on your hands, the way a leaf moves in the wind. These are not distractions, they are invitations. Life is made of small things. If we wait only for big moments to feel alive or connected, we will miss most of what life is offering us. The sacred is not hiding in some far-off place. It is sitting with you at the kitchen table. It is walking beside you on the most normal day. The more we honor the small, the more we see that nothing is truly small. Everything, when seen with open eyes and a soft heart, becomes part of something greater. And in that way of seeing, life itself becomes sacred. The world we see depends on how we look at it. Two people can walk the same path. One sees only problems, the other sees quiet beauty. What makes the difference is not what's outside, but what's inside. When we begin to see with sacred eyes, the world becomes full of meaning, not because it changed, but because we did. To live with sacred eyes means to meet each moment with respect. It means looking at life not as a list of tasks, but as a series of small miracles. It means noticing the light in someone's eyes, the sound of wind through trees, the feeling of being here, right now. It means seeing through the surface into the heart of things. This way of seeing is gentle. It does not rush or judge. It does not ask, "What can I get from this?" but rather, "What is here to notice, to honor, to learn from?" The sacred is not loud, it whispers. And to hear it, we must look with more than just our eyes. We must look with our full presence. Living with sacred eyes does not mean life will be easy. There will still be pain, confusion, and loss. But even in those times, we can choose to see differently. We can ask, "What is this moment teaching me?" Or, "Where is the light?" Even here. This does not erase the difficulty. It simply reminds us that beauty and meaning can still be found, even in hard places. Over time, this way of seeing becomes a habit. We begin to look at others with more kindness. We begin to treat our surroundings with more care. We begin to walk through the day with more gratitude, not because everything is perfect, but because everything is alive, changing, and worth noticing. The world does not need to change for us to live a sacred life. We only need to change the way we see it. Sacredness is not in distant places or rare experiences. It is here, in the ground beneath our feet, in the breath moving through our chest, in the next moment waiting to be met. To live with sacred eyes is to say yes to life as it is. And in that yes, we begin to see that everything, truly everything, can shine. We have traveled together through many reflections, on silence, on nature, on simplicity, and on the beauty hidden in the everyday. Each step was not meant to give answers, but to open space. Sacredness is not something we find once and hold forever. It is something we return to, again and again, with each breath and each moment. The sacred is not far away. It is not reserved for special people or special places. It is here, in this life, just as it is, in your own being, just as you are now. You don't have to change to be worthy of it. You only need to begin noticing again, gently, quietly. Sometimes we forget. That is human. But forgetting is not failure. It is part of the path. And each time we remember, we return with new eyes, deeper understanding, and more softness in the heart. That too is sacred. Even the act of listening, of giving your time to slow down, to reflect, to be present, is a sacred act. In a world that moves quickly, this kind of attention is a gift, not only to yourself, but to the world around you. If these words have touched something in you, I'm grateful. This connection between us, even across distance, is real. And I thank you for your presence, your quiet listening, and the spirit you bring to this shared space. To those who have shown support through kind comments, through liking the video, subscribing to the channel, or even sending a super thanks, please know it is deeply appreciated. Your gestures, whether small or large, help keep this space open for others who may also be searching for something gentle and true. You are not alone in your journey, and you do not need to rush. The sacred will always wait for you, patiently, like the morning light returning after a long night. Wherever you are, may you find moments of stillness. May you notice beauty in unexpected places. And may you remember, again and again, that sacredness is not a destination, but a way of seeing. Thank you for walking this path with me.